Welcome to the American Contractor Network Contractor Startup Checklist video. This video is being created specifically for you, depending on where you're at in your business, but really it's to give you the foundational framework that you're going to need to grow your business, right? Things that you're going to be thinking about. For most of you that are starting out, these are going to be super important things for you to get squared away sooner rather than later, because once you get too deep into the game, it's really hard to change. So pay attention to these. If you've already been in business 1, 2, 3, 4 years, there might be a little something inside of here for you to pay attention to. Now, I am not a tax professional. I am not a bookkeeping professional. This is literally for informational purposes only. I want to make sure that you have at least an idea of the things that you should probably think about when it comes to setting up your contracting business the right way. Again, seek the advice of a professional. This is for informational purposes only. So again, understand that anything in life, including your contracting business, is all about the foundation. It's all about how are we setting ourselves up to succeed, right? Your foundation determines your success. You have to start to treat your business like a business and not a job. Too many contractors like to treat their business like a job, right? They check in, they check out. You know, they might write some stuff down, they might not. They might keep track of things, they might not. But ultimately, they're treating it like a job and not a business. But understand that you are ultimately responsible for your success and your failure. Again, as I mentioned before, I highly recommend an accountant and/or a bookkeeper. This is not advice. This is simply information. Now, when we talk about setup, the first thing you have to understand is that there's multiple types of businesses when it comes to filing your business structure, especially when it comes to taxes, that you can file. I'm only going to talk about a couple of them. The first one is, and these are the most popular, by the way, the first one is an LLC. An LLC is a limited liability corporation. How are they taxed? They're taxed on their share of business net income. Multiple member LLCs are taxed as partnerships, okay? There's also a sole proprietorship. A sole proprietor is someone who owns an unincorporated business by himself or herself, okay? There's also an S Corp. What is an S Corp? An S Corp are corporations that elect to pass corporate income, losses, deductions, and credits through to their shareholders for federal tax purposes. In other words, the corporation doesn't want to pay the taxes. They pass that all through to the shareholders. And then last but not least is a partnership. In a partnership, individuals are taxed on their share of business net income. In other words, if you have a 60-40 split in the business, then 60% individual will be taxed at 60%, and the other one at 40% of the total net income. Now, you need to register within your state, whether you're going to file as an LLC, a sole proprietorship, S Corp, partnership, or something else. You need to register with your state. Depending on the state, you can register online, you can register in person. The requirements, again, depend by state or are dependent by state, so please check with your local state, usually Secretary of State, and they will let you know how to register your business. The next thing you need to look at is insurance. Why do we have insurance? For one simple reason, and it is a CYA, right? We need to cover your ass. You need to take care of yourself. So there is insurance specific for the construction space, right? Construction insurance is a broad categorization of insurance policies that provide protection during construction projects. In reality, the term construction insurance refers to generally insurance that relates to construction projects and is not itself an actual form of insurance. Okay, so it's just talking about insurance. Now, specific insurance, general liability insurance, whether you're a tradesperson or a general contractor, a remodeler, doesn't matter, you should have general liability insurance, right? Why? This is the type of insurance that protects your construction business from a person's or business's claims of bodily injury, personal injury, and or property damage. Most states require you to show some proof of general liability insurance, but even if they don't, highly recommend that you have it. The next type is builder's risk insurance. Builder's risk insurance, also known as construction insurance, is insurance coverage for buildings, other structures while they're under construction. So if you are actually building something, you might want to think about builder's risk insurance. It's like, again, protecting if something happens with the structure itself. There's other policies like homeowners insurance, commercial property insurance that won't cover these type of structures. How much insurance do you need? Again, talk to a professional that can give you advice, but you definitely want above and beyond the size and scope of projects that you're doing, because again, you never know what may happen, and you want to make sure that you're protected and taken care of and that you're not exposed. So let's say you've got your LLC set up. Now you need to figure out taxes and you need to figure out bank accounts. Well, they're going to ask you for something called an EIN, an employer identification number. This is a federal mandate, and you can get these through the IRS. You go to irs.gov, you search EIN, you can do it for free. Don't go to some of the scammy websites that try and get your money to do it for you. You're going to be needing this for a bank account. You're also going to be needing this when you're working with larger projects or with larger contractors. They're going to ask you for your EIN when you fill out W-9. This is free. Again, irs.gov is where you go to get one. All you do is simply answer the questions, and at the end, it'll spit out an EIN. Make sure that you save that information because you're going to probably need it into the future. Taxes. Again, consult with a professional. But how much do you pay? Well, it depends on the state, right? Usually federally, you're taxed 13% as a sole proprietor, 24% as a partnership, 27% as an LLC. S Corp, again, there's just a wide variety of that. The safe bet, though, is to plan on 30%. Your taxes are going to be 30%, right? So 30% of income. Just be prepared for that. Now, how often do you pay taxes? Well, it kind of depends. You can pay annually, which is what most companies do. Some pay quarterly. Some pay by the job just to stay on top of things, right? Again, talk to a tax professional. Accounting. You're going to need to pay attention to accounting. How important is accounting, right? Accurate and timely construction financial reports can help you monitor your performance, control costs, improve profitability, and manage cash flow. This is important for any business, but it's particularly critical in the construction industry, which by its nature is subject to a great deal of uncertainty. In other words, you need to know the numbers. Now, what are some of the numbers that you need to know about? By the way, I highly recommend QuickBooks. I know there's other programs out there, but as far as the program that integrates across the board, not just with tax professionals, but also with banks and also with different CRMs, which is where you probably keep track of your estimates and your billing, so on and so forth. Highly, highly recommend QuickBooks, although it is not the only option out there. Now, the first thing, you need to separate your personal and business account expenses, right? You don't want to do what's called commingling. At the end of the year, it gets very, very difficult for you to have to go through every month and every transaction and determine where it falls. Keep it separate. You should have your business expenses in a business account, your personal expenses in a personal account. Now, a construction job is project-centric, right? So you're going to need a way to track, categorize, and report transactions for each job. This is called job costing, right? It's a method for allocating expenses and revenue to each job. Not only will this help you prepare for tax time, but it also provides an accurate accounting of profitability for each contract, right? So it's really cool to say, hey, my overall profit margin is 21%, but were some 2% and some 35%? Which ones, right? And how do we make sure that we're sticking to more of the profitable jobs? Again, it's important that you ensure that your price covers all of those expenses and you make a profit on your jobs. Day-to-day financial transactions. Again, you might need a group bookkeeper for this, depending on how many transactions you have, or you may not. You can use a journal, you can use a spreadsheet, or you can use construction accounting software. I highly recommend the software. Again, we've partnered with Contractor Plus, and I believe that using software, QuickBooks, so on and so forth, will help you more than hurt you in the long run. If you're using a journal or spreadsheets, eventually you're going to have to make it digital anyway. You need to select the revenue recognition model, right? Revenue recognition is how a business determines when they've officially earned revenue from a contract or project. Under regular business accounting circumstances, revenue recognition is simple because they sell a product or service and collect a fixed price right away, right? They can choose between cash method or the accrual accounting methods. Construction companies, though, make this a little more complicated because there's a few main things that you need to worry about, right? Completed contract method. What is this? That means that you've completed the contract, and that is when you recognize revenue, is when you've completed it. But you could also recognize or use the percentage of completion method. This basically means that you recognize revenue according to the percentage of project you completed during a year, right? So if you completed 72%, then you use that 72% as the percentage of completion method. The next thing is you need to track business expenses, right? Again, why it's so important to have a separate business account. You will also want a spreadsheet or, again, QuickBooks, some way of tracking all these expenses. This could be payroll, subcontractor fees, equipment, material purchases, so on and so forth. Again, a way to keep track of everything. Why? Because at the end of the year, you're going to want to categorize these, and you can write off certain expenses, right? Ultimately, you want to pay as little as you can in taxes, but you have to be able to keep track of everything in order to be able to do that, right? So some of the most common expenses in the construction industry: registration and licensing, bank fees, tools and equipment, travel expenses, including fuel, electronics, any type of trade school tuition that you or your employees may be going to, any type of vehicle maintenance, phone and internet, lodging if you're traveling, software subscriptions, membership fees to unions and associations, any mileage, insurance, right? Lease payments if you have a space, safety equipment and uniforms, again, subcontractors, employee payroll, and then advertising and marketing. And the last thing that you need to do is understand this: stay consistent. Once you set up your processes, stick to it, right? Again, this is super important, especially when you're getting started. Start with the right foot forward. Start with the right foundation. It's much easier to do this, right? And when it makes sense financially, hire a professional to help you. All right, again, this list will be down below so you can review it, but understand that you're going to need an expert to help you along the process. So when it makes sense, ask an expert, leverage a system like QuickBooks, leverage a CRM like Contractor Plus to help you keep all these things organized.